We also would like to welcome this morning Carmen Dusek, who is running for the position of 391st District Judge. Welcome. We appreciate your time this morning. We're going to start directly with the questions. Lyle-Ann, if you'll lead us off.
Yes, thank you. What experience do you bring to the table for the court that you seek to oversee?
I have 20 years of experience in trial and appellate courts, and I've handled all the types of cases that this court hears. This court, as well as all of our district courts, hear family law cases, civil litigation cases, that's where individuals or businesses get sued. The court also hears felony level criminal cases, and this particular judge, by agreement of the 4 district judges, has been hearing the juvenile cases. I've worked in all of those areas, and all of my experience has been in trial and appellate courts for the last 20 years.
Given a complex case, what would you base your judgment on? The Constitution or precedent, and why?
I am absolutely a strict constructionist. And in fact, of the candidates, I'm the candidate who has an appellate record and a trial court record with motions and legal documents filed that supports that. Because I believe very strongly that the black and white letter of the law is what should apply. If that is what's applied, it's fair to all parties that are in our courts because everyone knows what to expect.
There is an explicit conflict between the Texas Constitution and a recent U.S. Supreme Court decision. Being a Texas judge, which would you follow, the Texas Constitution or the U.S. Supreme Court?
I presume you're talking about the issue of marriage. And it's a very difficult situation. To be perfectly honest, my hope is that the legislature will get down there and help fix this problem because that will make it very clear. At this point in time, Texas judges are having to unfortunately follow the United States Supreme Court opinion, whether they agree or not. Although you are correct, there is an express conflict with the Texas Constitution. But unfortunately, the way that the Texas Supreme Court is looking at it, we must follow that United States Supreme Court ruling.
And I'm stepping in for Rusty, who had to step away for a moment. His question is about jury nullification. If, despite overwhelming evidence that a criminal defendant committed the offense with which he is charged, a jury decided not to convict him because they disagree with the law, would you let the jury's verdict stand or would you declare a mistrial?
When a criminal defendant chooses to proceed with trial by jury, that is a constitutional right, and that jury verdict must stand. If a jury convicts someone, that will go up on appeal, and if there is clearly not sufficient evidence to have convicted the person, it would be reversed. But otherwise, the jury's verdict must stand.
Well, as a judge, when instructing a jury, would you include the concept of nullification in those instructions?
We have very standardized pattern, what's called pattern jury charge, Texas pattern jury charge. And these are, they're forms that courts are able to use. In, let's take a criminal case, as you mentioned. Those are set out based upon the statutory law and also based upon rulings from the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. And so they're standardized, and there often are instructions in there that jurors must follow. All jurors take an absolute sworn oath to follow the law as set out in the jury charge. And so there's not typically a specific issue presented to the jury on nullification. Instead, you've got to trust that those 12 or 14, if you have alternates who have been participating in the case, the 12 who ultimately make the decision are abiding by their oaths and following the law as written and provided to them by the court when they make those questions, answer those questions as set out with the law before them.
This kind of was hit on already, Carmen, but I'll give you a chance to kind of expound on it. In your view, under the federal system set up in our Constitution, chosen by the framers and agreed to by the states, who should have the most influence on law, the federal judiciary or the state judiciary?
I personally believe in states' rights. And so I believe that it really should be the state laws and the state judicial system that applies. That's what impacts the day-to-day lives of our citizens. And when you live in a states' rights fundamental society, then it's the states and the people in those states making their own decisions. For instance, in Texas, having the ability to have our legislators pass laws and be signed off on by our governor, approved by our governor, that's the law in Texas by the people we have as a collective group put in office to make those laws. And so I personally prefer state law to apply into local situations.
It's being said, our country is in a spiritual identity crisis from the invasion of Islam infiltrating our core belief system and our foundational principles that are based upon God, the Bible, and the Constitution. Our president proclaims he is a Christian leader, but his fruit reveals he isn't seeking the God our country was founded upon. And the consequences we face now is that our nation stands to lose its Christian identity. The spiritual relationships of our elected leaders heavily affect our nation and in which direction our nation will turn. So when it's time for you to rule from the bench concerning the fate of the individual concerning a criminal or a civil matter, how would you come to that place of judgment as representing God in that judgment?
Now, this could be a long answer, and I apologize. I personally have a strong faith in the Lord and have my whole life. But 10 years ago, I had what many would say a transformational experience when I really, truly could see God's work in my life on a daily basis. And because of that, once you've had that type of experience, you learn to be at peace with many things and to look to God for guidance. And that is how, even throughout my practice, I've tried to handle situations. I try to look to the Lord for the guidance and how to deal with the situation. When I'm, for instance, in a courtroom advocating for a child and trying to make a recommendation on what's in the child's best interest, there's a tremendous amount of prayer involved. There's a tremendous amount of prayer involved anytime I'm taking a case to trial, because what I'm always looking for is that we have an outcome that is just but is pleasing to the Lord. And I think that probably, as it is now, I can't imagine that it would not continue to be the driving factor in my day-to-day life and my day-to-day work on the bench.
Thank you.
Well, this will be a similar, maybe a follow-up. In Exodus 18:20, it does list the qualities of a judge that Moses picked. Certainly you are qualified from experiential and educational aspect. How about from God's view?
I am in this race because the Lord put me in this race. I am a humble servant, though, and I'll be perfectly honest. It's not a politically correct answer, but we'll see in 3 weeks whether God intended for me to be part of the race or God intends for me to serve on the bench. In either scenario, I know that the Lord will bless me. I know that the Lord will be magnified through the process. And through this process of even running for office, every time I've prayed for a need, it has instantly been given. And it's been an amazing journey. And I think that carries forward into all of my work because my relationship with the Lord has deepened even through this process.
Carmen, we'd like to invite you to give a closing statement, please.
Right, thank you. I'm Carmen Dusek, and I'm running to be the next 391st District Judge. I'm from San Angelo. I was born and raised here. My parents are Clint and Mariana Symes, and my husband, James, we've been married 17 years. We chose in 2000 to move from Austin, Texas back to San Angelo to live where we knew that we could be in a community with strong Christian conservative values and where I would have more time in a courtroom. James and I also are blessed to have one child, Annabeth, and she is truly the joy of our life. She is a reason that I'm running to be a district judge, because I believe that we need to make sure that our community and our laws are kept safe, and our judicial system, as the third branch of our government, is kept safe for our future generations. The citizens of Tom Green County deserve a judge who has extensive and recent current experience in our district courts. I have that. For 20 years, my practice has been nothing but representing individuals in courts and in the appellate system. Last year alone, I handled 13 trials. Those cases were across the broad and diverse areas that our district courts hear, which are family law, that being child custody and divorce cases, civil cases, where individuals or businesses get sued and money damages are sought. Criminal matters. I've handled felony crimes, particularly drug offenses, which is a high traffic problem here in Tom Green County and throughout West Texas. What I bring to the table, though, that is particularly unique is my more than a decade of experience protecting children and families from victimization through sexual assault and domestic violence. Children make up a core of what our courts hear. In fact, 2/3 of the cases that are heard by our district courts involve children and families, whether it's child custody, or it's crimes against children and families, or it's juvenile offenders who have broken the law themselves. And those juvenile offenders in our system are to be treated with compassionate toughness. Our family code is what dictates the way that the juvenile cases are handled. They're handled under that code as opposed to under the code of criminal procedure. Those youths are intended to be given opportunities to rehabilitate, but rehabilitate in a way that they become productive, structured members of society, so that we have young people who go on to lead productive lives and benefit all of us and turn away from their criminal ways. One thing that I also bring that I believe is very important is appellate experience. I've worked at the Austin Court of Appeals. I understand what it takes to make proper decisions as a judge so that the cases are finalized and do not have to come back and cost the taxpayers money by being retried and cause grief for citizens who have to hear their case tried again. So I understand finality and how to make the right decision. The other thing that I do that is unique in this case and is unique across judicial races is I have voluntarily chosen that I will not accept campaign contributions from any attorneys who appear in our courts. I am blessed to have the support and encouragement of many lawyers, but I have sent back many checks that they have contributed to me. I believe that this type of independence and integrity is crucial to our justice system because I love and I believe in our justice system, and it needs to be separate and aside from any special interest groups that want to try to control it or control a judge on the bench. I'm Carmen Dusek. I ask for your prayers, I ask for your support, and I would sincerely appreciate your vote. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time today. We really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Kat. Thank you, all of you.